When Kevin Durant reached his first NBA Finals in 2012 at just the age of 23 and holding his own against the Big Three of the Miami Heat before losing the Finals in 5 games, it was believed that the sky was the limit for this young phenom who had already become a superstar in the NBA before even entering his prime. Humble, quiet, but a killer instinct, a fierce competitor, and one of the greatest scorers in the game was what Kevin Durant was known for. He was clearly a generational talent that was well on his way to becoming one of the greatest players of all time, and now 10 years later, Kevin Durant is still without a doubt one of the all-time greats, with all the accolades, the accomplishments, and being a top 5 player in the NBA throughout a good portion of his career. But there is something about Kevin Durant that differentiates himself from all of the other all-time greats, and why we're starting to see it all unravel right now before our eyes. If you're new to the channel and you enjoy the content, consider subscribing, as this is a newly created channel that I am trying to grow, and in return I'll be providing NBA content all season long. Now, I want to start off by saying that my thoughts and opinions on Kevin Durant should by no means take away from the fact that he is an incredible player, a once-in-a-generational level talent, a surefire Hall of Famer, and in my opinion, the second greatest scorer the game of basketball has ever seen behind Michael Jordan. And he is no question among at least the top 20 greatest players of all time. He is amazing to watch, and it will actually be a sad day for the league when he leaves the game of basketball for good. But here is where things changed a bit in terms of how Kevin Durant was viewed across the league, and also his demeanor and personality shifted as a once very humble young player, and it starts with the 2015-16 season. This was the season that followed Kevin Durant having a year riddled with injuries where he missed a good portion of the season, playing only 27 games, and the Thunder missing the playoffs as a result fired their head coach Scott Brooks, and the Oklahoma City Thunder hired longtime college coach and 2-time NCAA champion Billy Donovan. At the time, it was speculated that Kevin Durant was not too pleased with the hiring, as he really developed a strong bond and relationship with Scott Brooks over the years, and Billy Donovan, being a first-time NBA head coach, was inheriting a star-studded team that had title aspirations, and it was rumored Kevin Durant had doubts about Billy Donovan being that guy to get them over the top and winning a championship. Well, despite somewhat of an up-and-down season, the Thunder finished third in the West, winning 55 games, and in just Donovan's first season, he was able to get the Thunder all the way to the Western Conference Finals, and even managed to take a 3-1 lead over the 73-9 defending champion Golden State Warriors. For most, at that time, it was thought that this is the year Kevin Durant is going to win his first title. Taking out the 73-9 Warriors was a massive feat in and of itself, and then of course we all know what ultimately happened. The Thunder completely fell apart and proceeded to lose the next 3 games in that series, blowing a 3-1 lead. And the frustration from Kevin Durant of not being able to get over the hump and win a championship despite multiple opportunities with the Thunder had boiled over, and KD pulled arguably the weakest move by a superstar in NBA history to join the team that he blew a 3-1 lead to, a team that was already stacked with talent and had won the championship the year prior, even though they had lost to the Cavs in that season in the finals. Kevin Durant was going to join forces with one of the greatest teams ever assembled, and from that point on, Kevin Durant changed as a player. Of course, KD's decision to join the Warriors was met with a ton of backlash and criticism throughout the NBA world. It wasn't even just among Thunder fans, calling him soft, a cupcake, a coward, chasing rings, you name it. People were going all in on Kevin Durant, and virtually overnight, he went from being one of the most liked players in the NBA to one of the biggest villains. And as much as Kevin Durant tried to act like this didn't bother him, and that it only fueled his play even further, his behavior and actions would say otherwise, creating burner Twitter accounts that he would forget to switch to his real one, where he would go at random fans to defend himself, and even the burner accounts aside, he would even consume his time and energy responding to random trolls on social media with his regular Twitter account. His demeanor and attitude towards the media completely changed, short, cold, and demeaning towards reporters. His fallout with Russell Westbrook, putting blame on him for the reason why he left the Thunder, among other reasons of course. Video clips of him warming up and shooting around after the Warriors' first loss of that season, in which he joined the team, talking to himself, how he's out here working and how he doesn't care what all the other haters say. Just very odd and insecure things to see from a superstar level player in the NBA. Of course, Kevin Durant won his championships with the Warriors. He got his finals MVPs, all NBA selections to go with it, but throughout his tenure with the Warriors, Kevin Durant still received his criticism among fans, citing that he didn't really earn those titles and took the easy way out to win rings. And it got to the point that after Kevin Durant, having gone to his 3rd straight finals with the Warriors, but suffering an Achilles injury in Game 5 of that series, and the Warriors subsequently losing in said series to the Raptors, there was speculation that Kevin Durant headed for free agency going into that offseason, was looking to start a new chapter and to prove to everyone that he could win a title on his own, not another Stars team, because even though Kevin Durant was the best player on that Warriors team, yes, I know some will disagree with that take, but he was clearly the best player on the Warriors, especially in those final series. But even though he was the best player, it was always still going to be Steph Curry's team. There was no getting around that. And so, of course, Kevin Durant took his talents to Brooklyn, a team that in the prior season had gone 42-40 and lost in the first round of the playoffs. So this most certainly would not be a case in which he was just joining an already stacked team that was already ripe to win a title. But of course, that team construction quickly changed with Kyrie Irving also joining the Nets that offseason, and James Harden would later be traded to the Nets the following season, this being Kevin Durant's first actual playing season with the Nets since he sat out the whole season from that Achilles injury that he sustained in the 2019 finals. And I don't need to go into all the drama that ensued over the course of the last 3 seasons with the Nets. You guys already know it. I've already talked about it in a prior video, but in short, ever since Kevin Durant joined the Nets and effectively created another super team, the Nets have won all but one playoff series. Yes, Kevin Durant was injured for a portion of last season, Kyrie wasn't playing, Harden requested a trade, but either way, things haven't worked out in the manner Kevin Durant was hoping for in making this his team and winning a championship on his team. And the reason we're talking about all this now is because I'm sure most saw his recent exclusive interview with Bleacher Report in which he talked about his reasons for why he requested a trade over this past offseason, what his legacy means to him, how people perceive him as a leader. It was actually a lot that they covered, but the biggest takeaway for me, not just from the interview, but really from Kevin Durant as a player over the past few seasons, is his lack of self-awareness and pettiness that he has for a superstar level player. And actually scratch that, I mean for an all-time great level player, because there have been plenty of superstars over the years that were petty and so focused on how people perceive them. This isn't just isolated to Kevin Durant, but when talking about the all-time greats, guys like Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, Tim Duncan, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Larry Bird, Hakeem Olajuwon, Shaq, you know the all-time greats. One thing that differentiates them from Kevin Durant is that they did not care what others thought about them. Rarely did any of these guys lack self-awareness. Maybe to an extent LeBron James, and sure all these guys have been petty at one time or another throughout their careers, but none of them were as petty as Kevin Durant is in how he gets into it with the fans, the media, making ultimatums to his current team. For these other greats, they have one thing on their mind: winning. Working hard and winning. They didn't care what other people thought about them and getting into arguments with fans on social media. They wanted their play to speak for itself and solely focus on getting better and winning. And what's crazy is that Kevin Durant's play does speak for itself. He is an amazing basketball player. He's one of the best talents we'll ever see in our lives. And yet, he still resorts to stuff like this. And look, what gets me from this interview that he did with Bleacher Report, which really speaks to Kevin Durant's lack of self-awareness, as I mentioned before, is when he was talking about his legacy, and that he claims winning before you retire as a means to get your legacy straight is BS to him. He said, "My legacy is predicated on what Cam Thomas is learning from me and what he'll take away to help him by the time that he's in his 10th year. That's my legacy. What I did for Andre Roberson, the confidence I helped him build when he was in the league, that's my legacy. Being able to play with Russ, Steph, and Kyrie and still be me, yeah, that's my legacy. That's who I am. That's what I bring." Now look, there is nothing wrong with Kevin Durant saying all of this and what he said here. There's nothing wrong with wanting your legacy to be around what you did for other players. There's nothing wrong with wanting to just be you, regardless of the situation that you find yourself in or whoever you're playing with. But we all know that is not what Kevin Durant values when it comes to his legacy. It is about winning. It is about perception. It is about not wanting to be viewed as the player who just chased rings. It is about where you stack up among the all-time greats. It is about all the accomplishments, accolades, trophies, etc. And when you see Kevin Durant sitting here saying winning shouldn't be a part of one's legacy, or that he doesn't care what other people think, or that he doesn't care that he's not seen as a leader, we all know that just is not true. I don't believe that one bit. Not from what we have seen Kevin Durant place so much focus and emphasis on this over the course of his career. And what's funny, when Kevin Durant talks about helping guys like Cam Thomas or referencing what he was able to do for Roberson as part of his legacy, he says this right after, when talking about the current state of the Nets, he said, "Look at our starting lineup: Edmund Sumner, Royce O'Neal, Joe Harris, Nick Claxton, and me. It's not disrespect, but what are you expecting from this group?" I mean, you're talking about building your teammates up as part of your legacy and what you're doing for them as a leader, and that being the most important thing to you. And then you proceed to throw them under the bus, your entire starting lineup under the bus, as a means to deflect from taking accountability for why your team hasn't been playing well. This is what you wanted. You wanted to show you could win with your own team. And now that the team has been a disaster because of all the drama that has ensued, a lot of it because of Kevin Durant, and now you're saying, well, what do you expect? We do expect more. We do expect you as the leader of the team, as one of the greatest players in the history of the game, to be taking more accountability and have a little more self-awareness instead of always putting the blame on others. And look, all of this is part of the reason why Kevin Durant's trade value when he was demanding a trade wasn't as high as he thought it would be, and why they ultimately had to settle their differences and decide to run the team back. Don't get me wrong, a lot of teams wanted Kevin Durant and would have given up a fair amount to get him, but they weren't willing to move heaven and earth to add him to the roster, which is what Kevin Durant thought. Not at this age, not at his contract, and not with all the drama that often comes with Kevin Durant. And in there is the problem with KD, a phenomenal player, a once-in-a-generation talent, an all-time great, one of the greatest offensive players the game has ever seen, but his ego, his personality, his obsession with how he's perceived, his focus on his legacy, and it being all about him, but to make it worse, he's in denial about it, trying to act like he's not concerned about these things. And for an all-time great superstar, it baffles me that we have seen Kevin Durant completely change as a person after making the decision to go play with the Golden State Warriors. He's tried to save his quote-unquote legacy and the perception of him ever since, but in fact, he's only made it worse. And there really is no turning back at this point. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about Kevin Durant and this latest interview with Bleacher Report. Be sure to subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.